Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're shifting gears a little bit. I want us to mentally step out of the studio, maybe out of the commute, and just imagine walking into a space we like to call the Philosophy Hub.
The Philosophy Cafe?
The Philosophy Cafe, exactly. Picture, a high-ceilinged room, some late afternoon sun cutting across the tables, that smell of roasted coffee. It's a place that's really designed for slowing down. Because today, we aren't just skimming headlines. We're sitting with some of the heaviest, most profound ideas in the history of thought.
It's good to be here.
And joining me at the table is our resident specialist, the educator, who helps us decode these really complex maps of human experience. It is so good to have you back.
It is wonderful to be back, and I love that visualization in the cafe. It's particularly fitting for today.
How so?
Because the text we're exploring, it isn't a manual for speed or, efficiency. It's a treatise on contemplation. It's a slow burn.
A slow burn.
Yeah, one that asks us to reconsider not just what we're doing, but who we are.
Which is exactly the kind of reset I think we all need. And before we really get into it, I just want to extend an invitation to you, the listener.
Pull up a chair.
Pull up a chair. If you find value in this kind of deep contemplation, if you like the idea of slowing down to sharpen your mind instead of just filling it with noise, we would really appreciate you supporting the mission here at the Philosophy Cafe.
A simple, or a share, it really does go a long way.
It helps us keep the lights on and these conversations flowing.
It really does. It helps us build a community of, critical thinkers.
So, to set the mood for this discussion, you've brought a story for us. A parable from the source material itself.
I did. I think it's the perfect way in. It's about a king who is at the absolute, the apex of his power.
Okay.
I want you to picture a ruler whose wealth is limitless, whose armies are undefeated. He can snap his fingers and alter the fate of nations. He has every pleasure known to man. But he hears a rumor.
Let me guess. A rebellion. A rival power.
No, nothing political. A rumor about a wise man, a sage, living in some remote, dusty corner of his kingdom. And the rumor says that this man owns absolutely nothing. No property, no gold, no titles.
But he's happy.
Exactly. He's reputed to be the happiest, most tranquil man in the land. And the king, who has everything but maybe lacks that specific, deep tranquility, he's baffled. He has to see this for himself.
So the king pays him a visit.
He travels to the sage's humble dwelling. He finds the man simply sitting outside his hut, just resting in the sunshine, looking completely at peace.
Right.
The king approaches, casting this long shadow over him, and announces, "I am the king. I can grant any wish. Ask me for anything. Wealth, a palace, a governorship, and it is yours."
That is the ultimate blank check. I mean, most people would ask for a chest of gold without even thinking.
Without blinking. But the sage, he opens his eyes, looks up at the king, smiles gently, and says, "I have one request."
Which is?
"Please step aside. You are blocking my sunlight."
Wow. That's bold. You could almost interpret that as arrogance, couldn't you?
You could, but the king didn't. He was just stunned. He realized in that moment that the sage had something he couldn't conquer and he couldn't buy.
Right.
And as the king walked away, he told his courtiers, "If I were not the king, I would want to be that sage."
That's so profound. The king realized he could block the sun, but he couldn't give the sage the capacity to enjoy it.
Precisely. The king's power was external, but the sage's happiness was internal. And that distinction, that line between the external and the internal world, that is the absolute foundation of today's deep dive.
And the philosopher we're talking about.
We are exploring the work of the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, specifically his treatise, The Wisdom of Life.
Okay, I have to pause here. When people hear Schopenhauer, they usually brace for impact. He's known as the godfather of pessimism, right?
He is.
The guy who said life is just a pendulum of suffering. So, is this going to be a depressing deep dive?
That is his reputation. And to be fair, he earned it. His major work, The World as Will and Representation, argues that the universe is driven by this blind, insatiable energy he calls the will.
Which leads to suffering.
Inevitable suffering. However, the book we're looking at today, The Wisdom of Life, it's a significant departure. It comes from a collection called Parerga and Paralipomena.
Parerga and Paralipomena. That's a mouthful.
It basically means appendices and omissions. It's a collection of essays from later in his life where he decides to be practical.
Practical Schopenhauer.
Right. He effectively says, okay, metaphysically, life might be a tragedy, but since we're here, how do we navigate it with the least amount of pain? What's the actual art of living well?
So it's less cosmic horror and more of a survival guide for the human condition.
Exactly. A guide to finding tranquility in a chaotic world. And to do this, Schopenhauer acts like a surgeon. He dissects the sources of human happiness into three very distinct buckets.
Okay, 3 buckets. Let's unpack them.
He classifies all human blessings into, number 1, what we are.
What we are.
Number 2, what we have. And number 3, what we represent.
The title seems self-explanatory, but I'm guessing there's a deeper meaning.
Hmm.
What we are is what exactly?
It's the sum of your personality. Your health, your strength, your temperament, your moral character, your intelligence. It's the equipment you were born with and, the person you've cultivated inside.
The self.
The self. What we have is all the external stuff.
Property, money, possessions.
Right. And what we represent.
How other people see you.
Yes. How you exist in the minds of others. Your rank, reputation, fame, your image.
The self, the stuff, and the status. If you look at modern society, it seems like we spend 90% of our energy on the stuff and the status.
You do.
We kill ourselves for the car, which is what we have,
Mm-hmm.
so people will think we're successful, which is what we represent.
Mm.
I'm guessing Schopenhauer thinks we have the ratios wrong.
Completely inverted. His core thesis is that the first category, what we are, is vastly, incomparably more important than the other two combined.
But isn't that just a platitude? It's what's inside that counts. Why is it practically more important?
Because what we are is the only thing that's permanent. It's the filter through which you experience everything else.
Right.
External factors, wealth, status, they're unstable. They depend on luck, the economy, the whims of other people. But your inner self, you take that with you everywhere.
So we don't experience the world objectively.
No, we experience it subjectively through the lens of our own consciousness.
Can you give us an example of how that lens changes everything?
Sure. Imagine a party. 2 people are there, same job, same income, same social standing. Objectively, what we have and what we represent are identical.
Yeah.
But one of them has a cheerful, optimistic, curious nature. They see the party as a delightful gathering, a chance to laugh. The other has a gloomy, cynical mind. They see the same party as noisy, superficial, and boring.
So the reality didn't change. The Aram Sat, the processing unit, changed.
Exactly. Schopenhauer says, for a person with a dead or impoverished mind, even the most beautiful surroundings are dull. It's like a camera. If the lens is cracked, you can point it at the Grand Canyon and the picture will still be ugly.
And we spend our lives trying to change the landscape instead of cleaning the lens.
We do. That is a powerful way to put it.
So let's drill down into that first bucket then, what we are. Schopenhauer makes a pretty aggressive claim about health, doesn't he?
He does. He says that 90% of human happiness depends solely on health. He actually writes, a healthy beggar is happier than a sick king.
Which goes right back to our opening story.
Right.
The king has the crown, but if he has migraines, that crown is just heavy.
It just puts everything in perspective. His argument is that without health, no external good can be truly enjoyed. You can have the finest wine cellar, but if you have a stomach ulcer,
It's useless.
it's just vinegar. Therefore, he says the greatest human foolishness is to sacrifice your health for anything else, for wealth, for promotion, for fame.
That hits hard in our culture. We glorify the grind, burning the candle at both ends to get ahead.
We trade the capacity to enjoy for the means of enjoyment. It's a terrible trade. And right alongside health, he puts cheerfulness as the most direct currency of happiness.
Meaning if you're cheerful, you're happy, period.
Yes. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. If you have a gloomy disposition, no amount of money can fix it.
But he also links this to intelligence, which I found surprising. Isn't ignorance is bliss?
Schopenhauer would fight you tooth and nail on that. He believes a person with a rich mind, someone who's curious, imaginative, is never truly bored, they have internal resources.
And the opposite of that.
The opposite is what he calls the Philistine.
The Philistines. What does he mean by that specifically?
For Schopenhauer, a Philistine is a person without any mental needs. They only have physical needs.
So no inner world, no curiosity.
None. No interest in ideas for their own sake, and since they have no inner world, they are terrified of boredom.
Because if they stop moving, they have to sit with themselves.
Exactly. And since their self is empty, that silence is unbearable. So they need constant external stimulation parties, gambling, noise, to drown out the silence of their own empty soul.
That's a brutal assessment. But it leads to this idea of authenticity, right?
Mhm.
He uses a metaphor about a melody.
Yes. He says life is like variations on a single melody, and that melody is our character. We can't truly step outside of who we are, and this leads to crucial advice.
Which is,
You have to align your life with your nature.
don't be a square peg in a round hole just because it pays well.
Precisely. If you're an imaginative artist, but you force yourself into a rigid bureaucratic job for the money, for what we have, you will be miserable. Your greatest strengths are just gathering dust.
So we have to know what we are to know what to do.
That's the foundation.
Okay, so that's the most important bucket. Let's move to the second. What we have. Wealth. Now, Schopenhauer wasn't a monk. He lived off an inheritance. He didn't say money is evil, did he?
No, not at all. This is where he's surprisingly practical. He acknowledges that poverty is a huge source of suffering. He believes money is very important for one specific thing.
Independence.
Independence. It's a wall against misfortune. It buys you the freedom to be yourself, to say no.
So money is good, but only up to a point.
Correct. It's good for satisfying real needs and securing safety. But, and here's the nuance, once those needs are met, excess wealth adds almost nothing to happiness.
In fact, you're saying he thinks it can subtract from it. How?
Because great wealth brings great worry. You have to manage it, protect it, invest it. You become a servant to your own fortune. He uses this striking metaphor, the ant.
The ant. Explain that.
He describes the person obsessed with accumulating wealth as an industrious ant. This person spends their entire life building a massive pile of gold. They work, they stress, they save, but they never cultivated their mind.
What do we have?
Right. They never developed the capacity to enjoy life, so they die, leaving this massive pile to someone else. The ant never lived. They just prepared to live.
That's a haunting image. Trying to fill an inner void with external stuff.
And he says it's impossible. It's a bottomless pit. He actually says wealth is like seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become.
Which brings us to the third bucket, and maybe the one we're most addicted to now, what we represent. Reputation, fame.
Schopenhauer is brutal on this one. He considers it the most fragile and the most foolish source of happiness.
Why foolish? We're social animals. We evolved to care about status.
We did, but he argues that basing your happiness on it is a trap. Why? Because what we represent resides in the heads of other people.
And you can't control what's in someone else's head.
Exactly. If your happiness depends on your neighbor admiring you, you've just handed the keys to your happiness over to your neighbor. And opinions change.
It's so relevant to modern life. We curate our lives for an audience, seeking validation in likes and retweets.
He would see modern social media as a factory of misery, this constant begging for a reaction from others to prove we exist. But here's the connection back to the first bucket.
A person with a rich inner life needs less validation.
The more one has within, the less one needs from without. That's his phrase. And this is where he discusses solitude. For many, being alone is terrifying.
Because they have to face themselves.
And if what you are is empty, solitude is a burden. But for the person with a great mind, solitude is a luxury. It's where they are free.
So we've covered the three sources. Focus on the inner self, use money for safety, stop caring what people think. But we have to address the engine under all this, the will. You mentioned the pendulum of life.
This is the metaphysical core. Schopenhauer believes the universe is driven by this blind striving. Because of this, human life swings like a pendulum between 2 points.
And those points are?
Pain and boredom.
Pain and boredom. Those are the only two options.
In his view, largely, yes. Let's break it down. When we want something, we feel a lack. That lack is a form of suffering or pain.
That's the pain side of the swing.
Right. We strive, we struggle to get it, then we get it. We get the promotion.
And we feel happy.
For a moment. But Schopenhauer argues that satisfaction is just the removal of the pain of want. It's fleeting. Very quickly we get used to it. The new car is just a car. And then we settle into
boredom.
Boredom. We feel empty again. So to escape the boredom, we invent a new desire, and the pendulum swings right back to pain.
The hedonic treadmill. We think happiness is a destination, but it's a mirage. So if the game is rigged, what's the strategy? Just give up.
Not give up, but change the goal. He argues for a negative definition of happiness. This is a crucial concept.
Negative definition. What does that mean?
It means we shouldn't chase intense, ecstatic highs. Those are illusions. Instead, we should define happiness as the absence of pain.
So, not feeling great, but just not feeling bad? That sounds a bit underwhelming.
It sounds underwhelming until you're in pain. Think about a toothache. When you have a bad toothache, it's all you can think about. You tell yourself, if only this pain would stop, I'd be the happiest person alive.
Absolutely. You'd trade anything.
But the moment the pain stops, what happens? You forget about it instantly. You start worrying about your taxes. Schopenhauer wants us to mentally go back to that state of not having a toothache and enjoy it.
Enjoy the simple cup of coffee.
Enjoy the safety, the quiet. We usually only appreciate these things once we lose them. The goal of wisdom is to appreciate them while we have them.
That's actually very profound. It's the art of not wanting.
And that brings us right back to the king and the sage. The king was stuck on the pendulum swinging between desire for more power and the boredom of having it. The sage was simply enjoying the absence of rain and the presence of the sun.
The sage had mastered the pendulum.
He wasn't swinging, he was sitting still.
So what does this all mean for us practically? If we want to apply this wisdom today in real life, what do?
We need to tend our own garden. We spend so much energy obsessing over the harvest, the money, or what the neighbors think of our garden, the reputation.
And he's telling us to forget all that.
Forget the harvest, forget the neighbors, cultivate the soil, cultivate your mind, your health, your character.
It's about building a self that you can live with, because you're the one stuck with yourself 24/7.
Precisely. And I want to offer a compassionate reflection here, because this is hard. We are human. We're wired to want things, to care what people think. Schopenhauer isn't saying this is easy. He's offering a lantern in the dark.
A call to return to the center, to stop outsourcing our happiness.
There's a quote from the source that just sums it all up perfectly.
What is it?
It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else.
That's the takeaway, isn't it?
Right.
We spend our lives knocking on doors, the bank, the career, fame asking, do you have my happiness? And he's saying, no, stop knocking, go home. It's inside.
And that leads to a final thought I'd like our listener to carry with them.
Go ahead.
In the quiet moments after this ends, ask yourself a tough question. Be honest. Are you living like the ant, tirelessly building a pile of gold or status that you don't know how to enjoy? Or are you cultivating the capacity to sit in the sun like the sage?
Because the sun is there for both of them.
Exactly. The difference is entirely in the ability to receive it.
That is a beautiful and challenging thought to end on. I want to thank you, our specialist, for guiding us through the Philosophy Cafe today.
It was my pleasure to walk through this map with you.
And thank you, the listener, for spending this time with us. It's a privilege. If this conversation sparks something in you, please remember to support the show. Share it with a friend who might be acting a bit too much like the ant.
Or maybe share it with a friend who is already a sage, just to let them know you appreciate their light.
Exactly. Until next time, we wish you inner tranquility and a little bit of sunshine. Take care.